In this episode of Life on Board AmyJo, Chris gets a rare treat to stay on at the boat as we descend the locks. And we head into Chester, where we haven't been for the last 2 years, for a special reunion. This is King Charles Tower, reputedly the viewpoint for King Charles to see the defeat of his troops. And we watch as we descend the North Gate locks underneath the busy ring road in Chester town centre. Reaching the basin, we are reunited with our 2 daughters, Amy and Joanne, a long overdue reunion. Having left our moorings at Waverton, we complete our journey north by terminating at the canal basin in Chester. It's just a short trip from where we were moored in Vickers Cross, down the 4 locks, then the North Gate staircase locks, and then more up in the basin. Got a bit of a treat for Chris. We've got a boat coming up with 2 guys that are working the lock for us, so Chris has been able to come back on board. Don't get to be in a lock very often, do you?
I don't, because I'm working the lock and you're steering. It's a novelty, this is. Quite nice.
slowly getting there. This is the first landmark as you come into Chester. This is the water tower. It was opened around about 1850s, would you believe, and was 70 feet high. But at a later date, they raised it up to 84 feet to give better water pressure. And it now supplies all the drinking water for Chester and the surrounding area. Back in 2012, they restored it and put a new roof on it. And added those unsightly aerials on the top, of course. But it's still an impressive building nonetheless. You can just about make out the city up ahead. We've stopped for a short while. There's a water point here, so we might as well top up while we're waiting. But we're waiting for our guests to join us today. We've got some special guests coming on AmyJo to see us into the town. All will be revealed in a later vlog. So there we go, last lock, and Chester town centre spread out in front of us there. So we're just going to carry on down the canal a little bit further. And then I'll stop just outside the lock and pick Chris up. So as I said earlier, most of these buildings here that you can see were originally warehouses. And the old working boats would have loaded and unloaded from here. Now they're all apartments, and some have been knocked down and big supermarkets built. Just over here is a new complex. It used to be a chemical works, and the tower there is a lead tower, and they used to drop lead pellets from the top of the tower into a tank at the bottom, and as they fell they turned into perfectly round spheres. But now more apartments. The town's trying to modernise itself, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. Another large warehouse. This one's called the steam mill. It was that big it had its own steam power plant in that tower there, and its big beam engines operated on this corner. But the whole building was given over to warehousing and storage. And the wharf down here would have been perfect to unload the boats. You can still see the doors where the goods would have been lowered down just above the canopy there, and the doors at the bottom there to gain access to the warehouse. Certainly an impressive building, any road. And this is another converted warehouse, only this time into a very popular pub called the Old Harker's Arms. Very good food to be had in this pub, and very frequented with the nightclub goers before they go into the bars. Believe it or not, these are actually modern buildings, but they've been built in the style of the old warehouses, like the ones on the Harker's Arm, etc. But they are actually quite modern buildings. I see they haven't pruned the willow back. Still acts as the gateway into Chester. I can't see a thing in front of me. I have no idea if there's anything coming the other way. Absolutely none at all. Let's just hope there isn't. There we go, we're through. We're in the town centre. Now, I've filmed this one before on our last trip into Chester. This is the Mill Hotel dining boat, but it's quite unique in as much as they can't turn it round. So it has a rudder on the front, and the little arrow there indicates where the rudder's positioned. They used to do really good 5-course meals on this boat. I don't know if they still do. Another old pub in Chester town. This is the Lockkeeper. This was formerly a timber yard and a loading wharf from here. And that would have they had working boats here loading up timber and cargoes from here. It's now a very good pub. And this is Cow Lane Bridge.
Oh, it was where they used to bring the cows
That's
over,
where they used to bring the cows across to market, yeah, hence Cow Lane Bridge. Ahead here is King Charles Tower. It was originally a lookout point from the Romans when they built the walls around the city. But it was from this point that King Charles watched his troops defeated at the Battle of Rowton Moor, which was between the parliamentarians and the Roundheads, or the Loyalists. And it's a good view from up there. They've closed it now, but you used to be able to go up there at one time. Every vlogger that comes along this section of the canal mentions it, but this whole stretch is hewn out of sandstone, and you can see the sandstone rising on the left there. But according to one of the lockies, when they drained the canal, the holes that they used to put dynamite in to blast out the sandstone in later days are still there. How true that is, I don't know. Apart from the well-known clock tower in Chester, this is another very well-known piece of history. This is the Bridge of Sighs. In days gone by, the building on the right, I think it is, used to be a prison, and condemned prisoners were marched across the bridge to have their last rites read before they were executed. And as it's said that as they crossed the bridge, you could hear them sigh.
Someone's having a good haul of magnet fishing up the canal today. Little piles of like old guttering and hooks and all sorts of things up there. And then when you come round here, they've got a box of bits there. Grating, and further along here, bike. Gosh, lots of different things. What looks like a skateboard as well. So that's less for the boaters to run over and jam in their props as we go along this part of the canal.
We're now waiting at Northgate Locks. There's a boat actually in the chamber coming up, so we're going to wait for them to come through and then we can proceed down. But Chris is going to have to reset the other locks below it to make it ready for us. Poor old Chris is getting a good workout this morning. Sadly, with the advance of modernism, they built a new ring road around Chester and it literally sits right over the lock, but I don't think they got the measurements quite right. They had to cut a chunk out for the house, for the lockkeeper's cottage here. Imagine living with a car a few feet away from your bedroom. Now you see why people are scared of these locks. These gates are quite impressive. They go nearly 2 tons each, would you believe? That's it. We are now in the final chamber. The last lock before we get into Chester Basin. This is a railway bridge and a road bridge, and we go under those, turn right, and then we're in the basin. It's the last chamber now, so then we're heading off into the basin. But making good time. We'll be moored up by 3 o'clock. It's now 25 to. So it's been a good cruise so far. Well, that's the last lock done. Just the right turn under the road bridge ahead into the basin, and where we knew our 2 daughters, Amy and Joanne, were waiting for our arrival at long last. What a pair of you doing? Look at that.
Just two nearly got 2 bites.
Now you know what I have to put up with. Petticoat government. Right?